Good day, everyone. Let us continue our discussion about qualities of assessment methods. We're done talking about validity and reliability. Now, we move on to fairness. The concept that assessment should be fair covers a number of aspects. First is student knowledge and learning targets of assessment. Students need to know exactly what the learning targets are and what method of assessment will be used. Second is the opportunity to learn. Equal opportunity should be given to all learners, regardless of his or her level of performance. This assessment has to be viewed as an opportunity to learn rather than an opportunity to weed out poor or slow learners. Third and last, fairness implies freedom from teacher stereotyping. So as teachers, we have to avoid bias in assessment tasks and procedures. We should not discriminate the girls from boys or boys from girls. Just like the given example, girls are better than boys in mathematics. We should avoid this one. The next quality we have practicality and efficiency. Practical and efficient in the sense that a teacher is familiar with the test and it is implementable. Will the test take longer to design than apply? Will the test be easy to mark? Teacher familiarity with the method, the time required or the time allotment for that assessment, the complexity of administration, the ease of scoring, the ease of interpretation and cost. In short, the teacher should be familiar with the test. A practical test is one in which can be practically administered. We say that something practical and something effective in real-life situation. The last quality we have is ethics in assessment. The term ethics refers to questions of right and wrong. When teachers think about ethics, they need to ask themselves if it is right to assess a specific knowledge or investigate a certain question. So there are some aspects. If you really have to gather data of the students, we have to respect the anonymity and confidentiality of those data. We should not disclose any information or any assessment data, scores, results of examinations, and etc. for us to avoid some ethical issues that may be raised, just like the possible harm to the participants, the confidentiality of the data, the presence of concealment or deception, or sometimes there are temptations that they want to assist students, but in reality, they're just going to use it in bad intentions. After knowing about the different principles of high-quality assessment, the clarity of learning targets, appropriateness of assessment methods, and the qualities of assessment methods, the big question is, how do we comply to these principles of high-quality assessment? To answer that, let us learn more about the characteristics of the 21st century assessment. The following 8 characteristics of 21st century assessment are essential guide for preparation of assessment activities by educators and future educators like you. It is necessary to refer to these characteristics to ensure that the learners are being assessed towards the skills and the demand of the 21st century. A 21st century assessment is responsive. Visible performance-based work generates data that inform curriculum and instruction. For example, in my English reading classes, whenever we discuss about literature and some literary works, I administer formative assessment for me to know if the class understood the lesson. This assessment gives them a set of questions which include, how does this literature mirrors your life? As teachers, we can actually adjust instructions. We can formulate our own questions for us to really go beyond the topic The implication is that the students have to react positively to these questions and look into what this lesson implies in the real life situations. An assessment needs to be adaptable to student settings. It should be flexible, rather than the identical approach that works in traditional assessment, because 21st century approaches are more versatile. For example, in English classes, whenever we have creative presentation, I group them according to their intelligences. The very evident example here is the group enrichment creative activities. So we have to make sure that when we ask our students to do something, it will not be difficult for them to adjust from one task to another. That's why in JECA, we actually give them freedom to choose from what particular activity will they be most comfortable. Assessment should be integrated. Assessments are to be incorporated into day-to-day practice rather than as add-ons at the end of instructions or during a single specified week of the school calendar. We should not just give summative assessments or mastery tests, summative tests to our students. Whenever we have lessons, I make it sure that we would have formative assessments, because we should not just give assessments for the purpose of quizzes, examinations at the end of a quarter or maybe a term. Assessments should be informative. The desired 21st century goals and objectives are clearly stated and explicitly taught. Students display the range of emerging knowledge and skills. Providing them routinary activities would guide them towards achievement of targets. Just like what we're doing in our class, before we start our discussion, I see to it that you are aware of the goals and objectives for that day. With that, I could make sure that you will be guided with the achievements for that particular class. Assessment should have a variety of methods. Multiple methods will do, multiple techniques, strategies, and etc. Because an assessment continuum includes a spectrum of strategies, that is the norm. Our students have different intelligences, so we have to see to it that we don't only focus on one way of assessing our learners. Assessment results should be communicated. Communication of assessment data is clear and shall be transparent for all stakeholders. Stakeholders includes the parents of our students. For us to keep our students on track of their progress, we return their papers or evaluation sheet, and we see to it that we submit students' grades on time for their parents to be aware of their child's achievements and performance in class. Assessment should be technically sound. Adjustments, accommodations shall be made throughout the assessment process, if necessary, for us to meet the students' needs and fairness, especially now that we are facing a different norm. There are really lots of adjustments. So in our class, or in my other classes, I always make sure that the assessments I give are valid, reliable, and therefore supports comparisons, since my students have different intelligences, beliefs, gender, and socioeconomic groups. The last but not the least, assessment should be systemic. There's a system. 21st century assessment is part of a comprehensive and well-aligned assessment system that is balanced and inclusive of all students, constituents, and stakeholders, and that it is designed to support improvement at all levels. If there's a need for this particular competency, we have to incorporate it in our learning activities. Changes are inevitable, so always make sure you'll be able to identify their needs, especially the community. And now we are facing a different situation. due to the pandemic. We can incorporate some things, some reminders in our lessons, because with that, we can help our students to become globally competitive individuals. To sum up today's discussion, have your notes and answer the following questions. What are the different principles of high quality assessment? How can teachers comply with the standards of each principle? And as future educators, how will you utilize the different assessment methods? And with that, you'll be able to answer also explanation, application, and reflection notes. Thank you for listening.